Today is May 19th, 2025, and the core value of the month is teamwork. All right, up first is going to be the invocation by our one and only David Butler.
Shall we pray? Heavenly Father, we thank you for the privilege to be here tonight. We thank you for our beautiful community. Lord, we just pray this week a special prayer of protection upon all those that will come into our city, those that are here visiting now. We pray for our first responders. We pray for those that are watching out. We just ask, Lord, that you would put a hedge of protection about us and be the Lord over our community. We thank you for this evening, for our civil servants here tonight. We ask that you would bless this city council and the meeting, and everything we do be pleasing to you. Now your blessings in Numbers chapter 6 is this. Now may the Lord bless you and keep you. May his face shine upon you and be gracious towards you. May he give you his peace. Amen.
Thank you for that. Councilwoman Nabear with the pledge.
Thank you. Please join me with your hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you for that. We got two proclamations because it is about summertime and we have a lot to celebrate. All right, the first one's going to be the National Public Works Week. Yes, sir. Come on up. Come on down on the Price is Right. All right, so National Public Works Week, that is going to be May 18th through the 24th of 2025. People, purpose, and presence. Whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of Destin. And whereas these infrastructures, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of our own public work professionals, who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, and solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And whereas it is in the public's interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and children in Destin to gain knowledge of and the maintenance and ongoing interest for the understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. And whereas the year 2025 marks the 65th annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by American Public Works Association, now therefore I, Mayor Bobby Wagner, do hereby designate the week of May 18th through the 24th, 2025 as National Public Work Week. I urge all citizens to join with your representatives of the American Public Work Association and government agencies in activities, events, and ceremonies designed to pay tribute to our public works professionals. So with that, anything you would like to add?
Normally I do, but I can't help myself. No, I am very proud of my team. We accomplish amazing things here in the city of Destin for its citizens. And if you have any questions or comments or service requests, feel free to reach out at our website, www.cityofdestin.com, or call the telephone number 850-837-6869. We also have a couple of job openings right now, so if you want to enjoy your work life and have it balanced with your personal life, it's fantastic work for the city's Public Works Department. Come see us, www.cityofdestin.com. Job opportunities. That's all I've got. Awesome. All right. Thank you.
Yes.
Oh, I get two of them. Oh, no. All right. Thank you.
After the water's treated It goes out to Choctawhatchee Bay, and then we all go boating. National Safety Boating Week. All right, City of Destin proclamation. Whereas for over 100 million Americans, I'm sorry. If everyone from Okaloosa Walton Sheriffs, FWC, and the Coast Guard, please join me up here. And Fire Department, of course. You got the newest boat out there. No offense. And jumping on this side too. All right. Whereas for over 100 million Americans, boating is a popular activity. In Destin, the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office, Florida Fish and Wildlife, FWC, United States Coast Guard, USCG, and Destin Fire, DF. You guys are the only ones that don't have an acronym. Valuable services and are sometimes the unsung heroes to those taking the water to enjoy boating, sailing, paddling, and fishing. Whereas during National Safety Boating Week, we encourage all boaters to remember that safe boating begins with preparation. And whereas the Coast Guard estimates that human error accounts for most boating accidents and that life jackets could prevent nearly 75% of the boating fatalities. Therefore, basic boating safety procedures, carrying life-saving emergency distress and communication equipment, wearing life jackets, attending safe boating courses, and participating in free boat safety checks and staying sober when navigating can help ensure boating in Destin and the surrounding area stay safe throughout the season. And whereas on average 650 people die each year in boating-related accidents in the U.S., 75% of these are fatalities caused by drowning. And whereas a significant number of boaters who lose their lives by drowning each year could have stayed alive had they have worn a life safety jacket. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Bobby Wagner, do hereby support the goal of the Safe Boating Campaign and proclaim May 17th through the 23rd, 2025 as National Safe Boating Week in the city of Destin and the start of the year around efforts to promote safe boating for our locals and tourists alike. So with that, thank you guys so much for being here. I'm just going to pass the mic down and just let us know who you are and how you help keep our water safe.
Perfect. Senior Chief Mingus, Coast Guard Station Destin, Officer in Charge. I just want to say thank you for this incredible partnership with these fellows here and the City of Destin to promote the safety on the water, especially around Crab Island and Destin. Awesome.
BM2, Dylan Proct. I'm one of the duty coxswains at Station Destin, so I drive the boats.
Jason Fulgham, Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office. Among other things, I'm the captain over the Beach Marine Unit. Just want to thank these guys up here in the city. It's partnerships like this that have caused us to come out of the top 10% in vessel crashes in the state of Florida. Most people don't realize that Okaloosa County per capita has more registered vessels on the water than any other county in the state of Florida. People that don't realize that are the ones that aren't on Crab Island on a Saturday. But yeah, I just appreciate the teamwork that takes place. There's two hot topics I want to bring to everybody's attention coming up. One is the boater education training. We're trying to get that into the local schools. So when you see that, please support that. And another one that's coming back in front of the legislation is several years ago, they rescinded the law about bow riding. That's coming back up for discussion. So please, if you have the opportunity to speak to your congressman, support them bringing back, making it illegal for them to bow ride again. Thank you.
I appreciate it. I'm Shelton Bartlett, one of the field supervisors for Okaloosa County. We appreciate the invite tonight. Glad we're able to be here with you guys. Obviously, working with all of our partner agencies is what makes us successful. As you guys know, we're all about boating safety, resource enforcement. We're the primary agency that does the boating accidents around here. So if you guys need anything from us, feel free to reach out. We're always available. Thank you.
Bobby Anderson, Battalion Chief, Destin Fire Department. These gentlemen here have said it all. We are certainly appreciative and honored for being recognized in this setting. So thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
And I just wanted to announce to you, last year, Mayor Wagner, the Coast Guard responded to approximately 150 cases of search and rescue throughout the year, and one of those cases involved a 7-month-old infant drowning, which the crew was able to resuscitate. And one of those crew members was just recognized as the USO Service Member of the Year for the entire Coast Guard, and will be headed up to DC at the end of this month. So boating safety is vital to us here, and we're definitely getting the recognition in Destin.
Thank you so much. I appreciate everyone. Got the photo? All right. Thank you guys so much for being here. Appreciate it. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for recognizing those awesome heroes on the water and for our public works heroes. Anything goes wrong, we certainly get to know how to handle it, and these guys make it happen, whether it's water or on the boating. So with that, we'll move on to the public comments. If anyone here wishes to speak, the only thing that I will ask you guys to hold your remarks for is anything of the public comment or the public hearings, 5A, B, or C. There will be a separate public comments for those specific. Other than that, is anyone here that would wish to speak? Seeing none, I'll close the public comments. And I will move to the consent agenda. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve.
A motion?
Second.
With a second? We got some extra staff over there. I want to make sure we get this going. All right, with that, I'll call the vote. Oh.
Jim is stuck.
All right, Councilman Braden, take us
Yes.
home.
Yes.
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 All right, that is a 6-0 unanimous vote, so moved. Moving on to the city manager report, Mr. Larry Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item 4A is a report on the final vulnerability assessment and adoption plan. We have representatives from Dewberry Engineering here tonight to make that presentation. At the conclusion of the presentation, we would ask, while it was listed in your agenda as just informational, I think it would be appropriate for action to approve and accept their recommendations as we move forward seeking funding for some of them.
All right, thank you. All right, let's push that gray button. Oh, on the mic itself, yep. Yep, there you go.
All right.
You're on.
Hello, everyone. Rudy Mall here with Dewberry Engineers. We're going to give a quick little overview on the vulnerability assessment that we did, as well as the adaptation plan. With me today, I have Hannah Hart. She was the lead role on this project. Without her, I don't think this could have been done. So just want to give her a quick shout out. So I don't have the clicker for the slides, but I'll just go through them really quick. So project overview, the study was completed in March, a couple months ago. The project was 100% funded by state funds through the Resilient Florida Grant Program through DEP. And so we analyzed and collected the assets for flood vulnerability, and we prioritized mitigation projects. And the complete VA is going to allow for Destin to apply for additional state funding, NGO, and federal funding programs. Quick recap of the vulnerability assessment. So the flood hazard exposure part that we did, the sources of flooding that we evaluated under current and future conditions, they included tidal, storm surge, rainfall, compound. That exhibit up there is for that 100-year storm surge event. You guys all have a copy of the report. This is all within that report, so if you guys have any questions, you can skim through that. So the results, we tailored through the scores, and we ranked the assets based on their flood risk. So there's a little key diagram on how we rank the assets. The next slide is a sample, or it's a map with the sample locations that come across our critical assets. So the Heritage Run stormwater pumps is shown there, as well as the Harbor Boulevard communication facility. The Destin Harbor pump shown there as well as the communication facilities there on Holiday Isle. The next map is the natural asset vulnerability map. Some examples that are shown on here are the Mattie M. Kelly Park, Four Prong Lake, of course, and then your Noriega Point beach access. Part of the VA is that we got the LMS letter adopted with the county's LMS plan. And so, after the VA was complete, adaptation planning was done to assess the adaptive capacity of the projects, as well as develop strategies to mitigate the vulnerability assets. So stakeholders identified primary categories of the resilience challenges to address. We held several private workshops with city staff. And so some of the key challenges were, does the city have funding? Does the city have public support for this type of project? Factors like that were considered important. And so the next slide, you have the proposed adaptation actions. We have them ranked. One being there is I think the Joe's Bayou boat ramp, and then number 2 shown there is the Mattie Kelly outfall, Mattie Kelly Park outfall. And then the next slide is just samples of how we rated the projects that are shown in the adaptation plan. And so the more important thing that you guys are wondering is the path moving forward. So what this plan does, it obviously provides a ticket into getting additional resilient grant funding. So the funding that we could, or the city could obtain, is you could get 100% match funding through the planning. Through the planning grants, which is conceptual design, site plans, and as far as getting funding for design and construction, there is a 50% match as required for non-DCO communities. So there's approximately about 20 million available in the planning funds. And then approximately 200 million available in the final design and construction grant projects. For now, I'll turn it to you guys if you have any questions.
From your guys' assessment, I know you talked about it briefly. Is there an assessment on like shovel-ready projects after you guys identified the areas? Did you guys go into what we have ready to go moving forward?
So we went through a list of projects and prioritized them in the adaptation plan. And I think number 1 at the top of the list was the Four Prong Lake project.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I don't think that would be ready to turn dirt. Mm-hmm. The next project in line, I don't have that list in front of me. Let's see here.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah. Oh,
Hannah.
Yes, we did address part of the adaptive capacities. Part of the adaptive capacities assessment with the 16 city staff that we worked with, that was a factor or a metric per se in addressing and prioritizing those projects. Was shovel ready, public support. There were several metrics that we aligned with projects to prioritize them.
Oh, perfect.
Did that answer your
question?
question?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, didn't mean to put you on the spot with it. Cool. Any other questions? Seeing none from council. All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve and accept and approve as presented.
I'll second that.
All right, motion and a second. Seeing no further discussions, call the vote.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for being here. All right, Councilman Guile, vocal vote.
Yes.
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 All right, ayes have it, so moved unanimously. Mr. Jones.
Before we move to item 4B, I meant to do this before 4A, but I want to make sure we recognize Robert Tomczak, our new city engineer. First day on the job, he's hit the ground running, and we're excited to have him on board. So welcome, Robert.
Welcome aboard.
Item 4B is regarding the pickleball contract with BGN Contractors. If you recall, that was the firm that we awarded the contract to. So this contract reflects the terms and conditions that we lined out at that time. If you approve this, we will move forward with a limited notice to proceed, which will be no more than some of the permitting until we get final approval on the $300,000 from the county, which we should get at their first meeting in June. But we don't want to get too far ahead of that. We feel very confident that that's going to happen, but until it's voted on, we're not 100% sure, so we won't get too far down the path, but we do want to get started on the permitting and the other components that are not a lot of money involved in.
So we need to bring a bunch of pickle people to their county board meeting?
Please do.
I've always wanted a reason to buy a paddle. All right. All right, with that, do I have an entertain a motion for 4B?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
All right, I got a motion by Councilman Bagby, second by Councilwoman Hebert. Councilman Braden.
Do we have, I guess our engineer or somebody's going to be overseeing this project?
That will be either through my office with Jeff and I or the engineer, and we haven't told him that yet, but he'll get the hints real soon.
All right, thank you.
All right, good deal. Anything else? Yes, sir.
Jeff, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I can add that we have Matrix on board to oversee the day-to-day operations on that. So they'll be doing that.
Great. All right, seeing no further discussions, we'll call the vote.
They were ready. Jim, is it working?
Yeah.
All right, ayes have it, so moved, 6-0, unanimous. All right.
Item 4C is a response from the FDOT regarding the request to put the delineator between the turn lane and the westbound traffic at 98 and Airport Road. There's a copy in your package of their response, which they basically said thanks, but no thanks. That in nutshell, we do not recommend the installation of physical delineator posts between the westbound through lanes and the bike lane. So they did not look favorably on that. We are going to reach out to them and ask for perhaps some larger, better signage that will indicate that, you know, you're about to enter into a right turn only lane, and hopefully that will help alleviate some of the issues we're having there.
Any discussion? All right, seeing none. Oh, yep, Councilman Destin.
If you can, please ask them to, if they have the information, how many accidents have been there? Because I've seen a pile.
I think we provided them that information in their workup, but we'll make sure they have if they haven't, but I believe we did.
Okay.
We'll follow up on that, though.
I was just going to let the rest of the council know that I've suggested that they put a, at the corner, right where you turn down to come to City Hall on 98 there, one of those big signs that looks like it's on an interstate that says right lane ends in half a mile. So people can begin, instead of waiting till it goes down at the track and it's on that curve and nobody can see around it until you get there. That's part of the problem. But anyway, and believe it or not, I asked for that when they were putting that 4-lane in right there and didn't get it at that time. So let's hope we get it this time.
All right, fair point. Anyone else? All right.
Item 4D is regarding our animal control services contract with Paws. We've been negotiating with Paws what we think was in good faith. They may not have thought so. As you know, their contract expired 2 or 3 months ago, and we've been back and forth with them. They came back with a number that was about a 30+% increase from $5 per capita to $6.50 per capita, which we went from about 69,000 to a little over 90,000. We countered at what we found to be the county's unincorporated per capita rate of about $5.75. They were not inclined to entertain that through our negotiations. So looking for another avenue, we reached out to the county, and based on some conversation with the Paul's executive director, they're anticipating having to renegotiate the county contract for unincorporated Okaloosa County sometime later this summer. So I reached out to the county and asked if they would be amenable to us joining in their negotiations to perhaps get some economies of scale. They were, and went back to Paul's and asked if they would continue on our month-to-month agreement and let us join in the county in that negotiation, and they said they'd be glad for us to do that as well. So just looking for some direction, if we want to continue as we are and join the county later in the summer in a negotiation with Paul's, or whatever other avenues may be available, or to re-engage Paul's and come back with their best and final offer.
Councilwoman Trammell.
I'd like to make the suggestion that you partner with the county going forward at that point.
Yeah, I agree. Would you like that in a motion? Would you like that in a
Yes.
motion?
Well, I will make that motion.
Okay, perfect.
And I'll
do I-
second it.
All right, further discussion?
I seconded it.
All right. Seeing none. All right, we'll call the vote. Yeah. Y'all are quicker than Ray. 6-0, so moved.
Item 4E are draft minutes from your standing boards and committees, and that's for information only. But give you 2 or 3 announcements. The Crosstown Connector mandatory pre-bid meeting will be this Wednesday, and that closing date for that will be June the 9th. So hopefully by the second meeting in June, we will have a recommendation to bring to you for a contractor to move that forward. Live Oak Fiber, we had some good talks with Live Oak. We got their attention. They have posted a $500,000 bond to ensure that when they leave the city, we're left whole. That covers our utility providers as well. Beyond that, we have allowed them to go back to work, but on a very limited basis. They can do their installs or their hook up their end users. But as far as boring or drilling, any digging, we're only going to allow them work 1 permit at a time, which will be 1 location. When they finish that one, we close it out, and we know that everything's back whole, they can go to a new one. So we're looking forward to that, and we're to that end, we have a new provider, Crown Castle, that has notified us that they will be coming to the city fairly soon. But we will
tell them we're full?
We will start with these folks where we're ending with Live Oak. We're going to be very limited on no more citywide permits. You're going to get 1 permit at a time. We're going to know where you're working, and we're going to close one out before we issue another one. So, it's been brought to our attention that the Welcome to Destin sign at the west foot of the bridge needs some attention. So we're working on getting that new face put on that sign in the next couple of weeks, probably.
I do have Councilwoman Trammell.
Dr. Young.
It says standing boards and committees instead of announcements, so that's why I was checking. I've had several questions about the flags that the utilities are putting out there to mark where those things are. And they've been there so long, and people are pulling them up, and it's my understanding that you can actually be fined for pulling them up. I'd like some clarification on that. And do they need, I know they can only last so long. I mean, they've been there for months in some cases. So what happens when we're only giving these permits for a short amount of time, and they're not being pulled up, or they're not being used, or whatever, and the flags are still out there?
I'm not sure I have a great answer for that. However, I would anticipate if we're limiting their scope of work, there's no need to go put out a lot of flags until you know where you're going to work next. So I would hope that by reining in those working areas, that'll be minimized. And if I'm missing the point, get with me later, and we'll see exactly what we've got going on.
Well, I just wondered if Ms. Kopp had any information on pulling up those flags and removing those flags from your front yard and that kind of stuff.
Under our code, I don't think we specifically talked about flags. Mr. Burgess, are you aware of anything like that?
I'm not aware of any, penalty for pulling the flags up. However, when the city calls in a dig ticket, we'll put out white flags. And then once that locate call has been registered with 811, the utility companies typically have 72 hours to mark their facilities within that white flagged area. And then a dig ticket is good for 30 days. And if you don't accomplish your work at the end of 30 days, you're supposed to call in for a new locate.
Yeah, I just piggyback off
That helps.
Tremel's comment. I have had a lot of emails of, hey, I think they're done in my street. Can I pull them up now? So I think just as a piggyback, as we're going to go one for one, perhaps one of their checklist things is, all right, you're done, pull up the flags, now let's move as just one of the check boxes.
Good job, Maya. That's awesome.
All right, moving right along.
Good evening. I do have a number of announcements. Tonight begins the 2025 County Mosquito Control Spraying. As part of the weekly spray schedule, the Crystal Beach area will be treated on Monday evenings, and West Destin will be treated on Tuesday evenings. And we have more details listed on our Facebook page in the last post about what to do if you don't want your area sprayed, exact timing, all of that sort of stuff is listed on our Facebook page. This Saturday, our Morgan Sports Center Children's Playground will reopen with all of the fixings. We've got new equipment, including ADA and inclusive equipment, shading, and more. So huge congratulations and thank you to the Parks and Recs folks and everyone else that was involved in making this happen. Yes. We will be doing a ribbon cutting at a later date. We're kind of doing I won't even say it's a soft launch, right, Lisa? But we're launching it. People are really excited, and we didn't want to wait to open it.
And
but
it's
the ribbon
Memorial
cutting,
Day weekend, so I'm proud of you to do that. Early's good.
Yeah.
And speaking of Memorial Day, that's of course Monday, May 26th. The American Legion will host a celebration that day at 11 a.m. that the public is invited to attend. It'll be held at the Destin Memorial Cemetery, and then the public is invited to go back to the Legion afterwards for food and refreshments. City offices will be closed that day. With summer here, a reminder that our community center has half-day camps, over 24 plus specialty ones with all different topics, super fun topics from Shark Week to music events to Mad Scientist Week. So we're really hoping that parents that are tuning in tonight with a live stream will consider registering their kiddos. We've looked into the utility box wraps more as council has requested recently. We mentioned before that each wrap cost about $1,200 to $1,500, and we have identified a potential location for the next wrap, and that would be the green box near the church on the corner of Main and Airport. There are boxes on kitty corner on Main and Airport, and the green box is owned by FPL, so they are going to meet with us this week to talk about whether they want to continue their wrapping program or not. And we do have a few businesses already that have expressed potential interest in helping support this. We did have our City of Destin Leadership Academy kickoff last week on May 14th. We have 25 staff members participating, and it's a 7-part series. And Lisa Gunderson from Northwest Florida State College is the facilitator. And Jamie Haynes, our HR director, will be reaching out to all of you up there, all of you council members, to see about your availability to meet with one of the classes that's going through. June 9th, we have our workshop to talk about SRS results for the town center and improvements throughout various city spaces. Doors will open at the annex here at 5 p.m. and we will have community development staff available for those that want to walk around and view the boards in case you hadn't seen those at one of the previous workshops. So the doors will open at 5 o'clock and then the meeting will begin at 5:30 p.m. and the public is encouraged to come out to that. And finally, the Destin History and Fishing Museum is undergoing renovations, and they have a 13-foot marlin, and they have asked if we could hold on to that. So we appreciate the Destin and History Fishing Museum for allowing us to have that for a couple years. It will mirror what's up there right now. It will be located over here. So thanks to the museum, but also a huge thanks to Public Works, because they're going to be the ones that are helping actually get that 13-foot marlin up there. And that's all I have.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Right.
All right. Kim, public hearings. Ms. Kopp.
Thank you, Mayor. This is ordinance 2505CC, an ordinance of the City of Destin, Florida relating to livery vessels, amending Article 8, registration of livery vessels of the City Code of Ordinances, amending provisions related to transferability of permits, providing for additional required training and safety measures, providing for findings of fact, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. This is first reading.
Awesome. Thank you for that. With this being first reading of the public hearing, if anyone from the public wishes to speak on this, this is your time to do so. Come on, Happy.
Chuck Hires, 316 Harbor Boulevard. Thanks for listening to me tonight. I've just got one issue. I don't disagree with all the moratorium and keeping track of all that kind of stuff. But, and I'm pretty sure I'm the only one, and this is the third time that I requested, and I don't see anything in here. Maybe it needs to be done separately. But I made a significant investment in purchasing some based on future development, future growth. The city approved it. I paid over $100 grand for them. So let me read this exactly. If they could be automatically returned to the city and made available to other applicants, which means basically you could take my $100,000+ and give it to somebody else. Now, I wouldn't have spent that money if I'd have known that this was coming here. I made it based on previous rules. So to come in and enact this rule on me now, that's just not right. I mean, you'd be taking my assets. You'd be taking my investment and part of my company and giving it to other people. Now, everything else, I don't have a problem with it. But like again, I made that based on it. You approved it. Please don't give my assets to somebody else. And when it's based on time, I'm not sure of that because the development that's going on is not mine, but I will be utilizing it. So that takes time as well. So when I bought it, it was based on, hey, this moratorium is going to last this long, and I was going to use it then, if that makes sense. Any questions?
I'm lost.
Yeah, I'm lost. What is it you're going to use?
My livery. So I bought 17 more livery licenses because they were allowed to be sold. So, and right now my current property, my parking restricts me from that. So I'm going to use those somewhere else in the future. And now you're telling me that, hey, if I don't use them in 10 days, then you could take those back from me and give them to somebody else.
I don't think that's true.
It says it right here. It says automatically returned to the city of Destin and made available to other applicants.
Oh, it's actually 180 days. The 10 days just notice to the city.
Oh, well, no, even 180 days, that's 6 months from now. I mean, developments can take years. You know, that's not what when I purchased them, there was no time limit on when I had to use them. I just knew this project was going to be happening, and I'm like, hey, I want to be ahead of this game. And I came to you, you approved the purchase, I spent the money. Now you're telling me you could take that money away from me in 6 months.
Gotcha. Have you started? Oh, sorry.
I think Kim is clarifying it right now. Am I right, Kim? Are you looking for the?
No, it's 180 days.
Yeah, Councilman Bagley.
I don't see
Thank
180
you.
days.
I appreciate that. Mr. City Manager, could you explain how we got to the 490 total? I have a couple of questions.
I can
Or
explain the
Kim.
490.
Okay.
So the 490 vessels covers everyone that is a legally permitted livery vessel currently under the moratorium, plus the boat club and the 11 yachts that are expected to register within the 2 years that they have to become legal pursuant to the ordinance that we just passed within the past couple months. So it's basically whoever is legally a livery vessel now, not anyone new.
Okay. And my question for you
It does include Happy's.
It does include his, and that's,
Yes.
I understand that. I understood that. But what's the development that, because there's a couple of developments I'm not sure are ever going to actually be developed.
Right, and that could be true too.
And so you're going to be short there. What's the development that you think those livery vessel licenses
Well,
are
it's not
tied
mine,
to?
so can I come to you privately and say that? Because I'm not that's not my project, and I don't want to give other people's information with the public because I don't know what's.
Sure.
I can do that after
Okay.
Okay.
Because here's my concern. Anybody could come to us and say, hey, I talked to my brother-in-law and, you know, he's going to do a development out on Holiday Isle or in the harbor on the north, side of the harbor.
Sure.
And 15 years from now, do we lock up 17? And I appreciate the investment you made, and I think we ought to protect you. But how long should we protect you to say, dude, you've locked up 17 licenses for 20 years? I mean, that at some point it just seems like we made a mistake.
Well, I can appreciate that as well, but again, I'm pretty sure your brother-in-law didn't spend $125,000 on some and won't be coming here. I'm the only person, I think, and I may be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm the only person that bought some under the moratorium for that. So that's what I'm saying. And I didn't have it I knew the investment would be lost if the moratorium ended. So that was my thought process. Because if you don't redo the moratorium, although I believe you will, and I'm in support of it to keep it, because we are such a small harbor, and agree with all of those reasons, that I would have lost it if those moratorium ended and then anybody could do it.
Okay, so have you already bought the boats? Are they already registered with the state?
No, I have not bought boats for these liveries because I have no place to put them yet.
Okay. So, and you paid the city for how many, 17 licenses?
17, that's correct. And I still pay for those every year. I still pay the delivery fee to keep them active, so I'm not like falling behind. But you gave the yacht charters 2 years, and they haven't even been in compliant, and you're telling me 6 months too. So even that, I'm just saying, government should not take money from one company and give it to other people. That's not right. And y'all approved this sale. So to change the rules now, I'm okay with changing the rules, but not if you're going to make somebody suffer and being punished. That's all. That's all I'm saying. I'm trying to protect my company's investment, and I would not have made that investment if I would have known that y'all were going to go down this path.
Thank you. We got plenty more to go. Councilman Guy?
Oh, sorry.
So when did you say you bought these licenses?
A year ago.
1 year.
Wait, what year is this? When did I buy those? I don't know, a year and a half ago?
Yeah, that sounds, how much is a license? How much is a license, just out of curiosity?
A livery registration is $100 per vessel.
$100?
Yeah, that's what I pay yearly, yes.
So you paid $1,700, not $100,000.
Oh, no. I bought these from somebody else who owned them.
Okay.
From another livery company who was going out of business. And y'all allowed them to sell them because there was a moratorium. So I bought from them. I paid another company for these. And I still pay my $1,700 every year.
Yeah. Well, to me, that's like if you invest in stock and the stock crashes, that's on you. I mean,
you're not stock. You're a government changing the rules. That is not the same thing, not even close.
You made that with a private entity, not us. That
you approved the purchase.
Okay, so what I would suggest,
Yeah.
and rather than the back and forth on one person,
Stock is nice.
I would suggest that the council decide what they want the ordinance to be and what the policy is, and then if there is, I'm not saying there is, but if we determine that there is an adversely affected party, we can deal with it separately. But let's figure out the policy that the council wants, and that's how we've handled delivery vessels all along, so.
Okay. Councilman Destin?
I'm okay with that.
I guess I'm done.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mayor.
No, keep going. No.
Go ahead.
Am I done?
You still going?
No,
Oh.
Okay, I've got a couple of questions. 180 days, what do you fail to do for that 180 days to come into play?
You fail to register, and if you fail to operate, then you would lose your permit would be revoked.
But if you register, you have to fail to do both or just one?
That's how it is currently, but, this is a discussion we can change.
That's exactly where I was going with it. The gentleman spent $100,000 buying those medallions.
But I'd say he's keeping them active by registering every year.
That's in my opinion, he is. And I noticed that it appears the ordinance says as long as you can sell them, as long as they're attached to a boat. That seems to be a backdoor for letting you sell them. So that's already in the ordinance. You know, can we grandfather someone who bought his certificates before the enactment of this ordinance?
Right.
If that's another way.
You
It's just
can.
that, you know, in good
That would
faith,
be
he
fair.
bought those. We were allowing people to sell them because I had heard some other people sell them. I've been involved in numerous moratorium type situations with fishing licenses. And so have all the charter boats. They own a federal fishery license right now, and it's worth money, thousands, because the federal government says, yep, you bought it and you participated and you can sell it. So this runs contrary to that, and that's also been the way the state has done with moratorium type situations. So, you know, if we put notice for people in the future, but not to penalize this gentleman that spent money in good faith when we were allowing them to sell them. So we need to figure a way around that, and I'll make a motion when everybody else gets to talk, or you can tell us the best way, in your opinion, to do it, Ms. Kopp. But
I think it's still what I said. I think y'all should choose the policy, and then we deal with the adversely affected parties separately. And that's consistent with what we've done all along since 2017. I can think of several that have separate agreements with the city because prior to the change being made, they were operating or spending money. In fact, the entire moratorium is based on that, right? Because we don't allow any more livery vessels, but if you were a business operating at that time, you were grandfathered in. So this is consistent with what we've always done, to put into place the policy you want, and then we will review the adversely affected individuals and decide what needs to be done.
Well, when everybody else has their chance to talk, then I can make a motion. I would also point out that the economic statement that is accompanying this is not accurate at all, in my opinion. All of these businesses have a very strong economic footprint in their equipment, in their businesses that they go. And so to tell them if you don't renew or you don't operate, that economic investment is gone, is a pretty substantial economic impact, in my opinion. And the report seems to say it's minimal. It's far from minimal.
Because there's not a change, the code already had that in it, and so that's why I think staff made that determination. The code currently says that they are not transferable.
The code currently says that?
Yes. It does, but we're changing it to say that you can transfer the permit with the vessel.
Okay.
All right, jump back in.
Yeah, so basically what I was going to ask a second ago, but it falls back into what you're saying now, is what do you think the time limit should be? I mean, do you think somebody should be able to hold a medallion for 20 years? Or do you think they need to start enacting? Because right now we're looking at a year and a half, 6 months gives him 2 years and he still hasn't done anything. I mean, at what point is there a limit where he needs to start enacting?
I think if they don't pay their registrations every year, then it goes bye-bye. And as far as this gentleman, he should be grandfathered, in my opinion.
Councilwoman Eber?
Thanks, Mayor. I agree with what Dewey was saying, and I know that what we need to do is pass this, but you need to be grandfathered in. You've already invested in what you were told and what we believed would be consistent with what they do with the fisheries. Selling a license, you know, families done fishing, but that whole and what they're allowed to bring in, selling that off, you've already invested a ton of money. So I think you can already tell from those of us, you're going to have the backing to get you in a grandfather position because you've invested with good faith. So I wouldn't worry about that. We'll take care of this to put it on the books for future, but we'll make sure that you're looked at in a separate light because you're already well invested and consistently paying to stay invested.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Councilman Bagby?
Yeah, so a couple of things. Yeah, I don't think, by the way this is written, we actually have to grandfather anything. As long as you keep it active, you can keep it out. You pay your $1,700 a year, you keep it active for 20 years, but you're paying $1,700 a year to keep it active. So, yeah, there's no the only problem is we got to figure out how to have it in there without it being linked to registration, because right now, my understanding is they have to be linked to registration. I have an issue, I have two issues. The 180 days, I think, is too long. I think it ought to be 60 days, and here's why. If you got your license, if you got your, whatever we want to call them, on March 1st, because you got it before spring break started, comes around to March 1st and it's time for you to renew. Okay, if you don't renew on March 1st, but you just keep operating and we don't catch you, you're operating for basically a spring break and a summer season illegally. Okay? So I would give them 60 days, the spring break period. You got 60 days to come in and renew, but after that, we're going to revoke your license and you're going to lose it for the summer season. And then we give it to the code guys to come in, because there's 180 days. I mean, I can get 2 years out of one $1,700 license, and that just doesn't seem fair to me. The other issue I have is there ought to be some limit, I guess, on how long you can not hold on, or when you transfer it, because here's the problem I'm trying to solve. Just like you said, I have a boat. My boat's worth $20,000. I sell you my boat for $80,000 because I've got a medallion. Basically, you just spent $60,000 for a medallion and $20,000 for a boat. And we just shift this little game that we're trying to stop, and I'll give the credit to the city manager. When he and I were talking about this, he had this idea, and I was like, okay, yeah, we don't want that to happen. So I would say if you transfer the boat, which is allowed, you sell the boat, and you have that license that goes with that boat, you have to keep it for at least 2 years. So you can't sell me a 1970 pontoon boat for $60,000 and then turn around the next day and transfer that to a brand new pontoon boat, because I just think there ought to be some mechanism in this ordinance that says, yeah, you can sell the boat, but you got to keep and operate that boat with that license for 2 years. I mean, unless it gets hit by a barge or the Coast Guard or whatever, but there's got to be something that we don't just move the flipping of the licenses into a different thing. So those are the only two issues I have with the ordinance. Otherwise, I agree with everything y'all have done, everything y'all have said. But I foresee two minor problems I want to make sure we fix. And Mayor, I apologize because I punched my button when Mr. Harris was up here, and actually we need to have the public part, so I'll stop.
Okay. Only if you say so. Councilman Brady. So I'm sorry. Yes, let's get through this, and then, yeah, we'll keep it going. All right, so let's get through the full discussion from the council.
No,
Councilman Brady?
It's a public.
Okay, you want to cut it off? All right. Anyone else from the public who wishes to speak on this topic?
All right, John Stevens, 4025 Indian Trail. Appreciate the discussion on this. The logic of having the registration assigned to a vessel is so that there wasn't someone just sitting on the medallion and just holding on to it forever. So if it was assigned to a vessel, then it was pretty much attached to something. Currently, you're allowed to transfer a registration from one vessel to another vessel internally. So if you have a broken vessel, you could transfer it over. Currently, you can also transfer registration from business A to business B. And with this ordinance, it made it to where you can transfer the registration from, I'm gonna make sure I say it right, because it was confusing before, from vessel A, as long as it's assigned to a registered vessel, to another vessel from business B. So as long as it's going from vessel to vessel, the thing is you just don't want that registration to go from a vessel to air, and now someone's holding on to it forever. That was the logic on that part. Does that make sense? Okay. That's all I got.
Awesome. All right, anyone else wish to speak on this topic? All right, seeing none, I'll close the public comments, and Councilman Braden.
Thanks. Does anybody have the real short version of how we got to where we're at with these so-called medallions? So I remember we came up with it to, I think, to know how many vessels we had in the harbor or how many pontoons, because there were so many of them, and some was saying they had 10 and they really had 15 or 12, and all of a sudden it went from, I've been able to identify how many vessels to something that this gentleman paid over $7,000 for a piece for these so-called medallions, and then now it's just seems like it's just dwarfed into this huge thing that just got way out of control. I mean,
Staff counted all of the livery vessels that have been registered from the start of the moratorium to now, added the 11 yachts that we know have been operating, that we gave 2 years to come into compliance with the bathrooms and the parking, and the boat club. And that's how we came up with the 490. Is that correct, Steve?
That is correct.
yeah, but my question was, is several years ago, we come up with this medallion system to identify, you know, I got 12 boats, so I'm buying 12 medallions for $100 a piece or whatever.
So we actually, sorry, go ahead.
I don't know if that, and that money was supposed to go into a pot to help patrol the harbor and the rogue operators. So how did we get to where we're at today as far as, you know, they're selling for $25,000 or, you know, I don't know, this gentleman says that, you know, we okayed him to buy these for $125,000. I don't think we were in negotiation between him and somebody else of, you know, whatever he spent for him, he spent for him. But, I mean, how did it come to, I don't know how we got to where we're at is what I'm asking. If somebody got a short version of that, is did council vote on something back in the day that, you know, so we're going to, this is all the medallions we're going to
I think when we
sell, and
passed,
now-
I think when we passed the moratorium, they became very valuable because nobody new could come in. And so the existing businesses amongst themselves, I don't think we told, I'm not aware of any conversations where we told anybody to sell medallions for any price or were involved in any negotiations. But once we passed a moratorium and we told the existing businesses that you are the only ones that can operate here because the harbor is not safe and it's too congested and all the things that the Army Corps of Engineers studied showed us, that's when those became very valuable and they began trading amongst themselves. And then once the city heard about that, we said, okay, council needs to make a decision on how to handle these. Are we going to do a pot of them? Are we going to revoke when they go out of business? What are we going to do with the existing registrations, which are the medallions? So.
It seems like it'd be easier to do like we did with the short-term rentals. You know, some of them was housing 40 people, and then we changed our LDC or whatever, and that's when the whole Bert Harris thing came in. Now you can only have 25 instead of 40, and then we gave them maybe 28 or a couple more, 2 or 3 more, whatever, when we were agreeing with that. And I don't know why that's not with the livery vessels. I mean, I guess the harbor study says, you know, look, we're overcrowded, so, you know, instead of selling all these medallions, or it seems like it's creating a headache for everybody. If it's the same thing, I mean, it's saying, you know, we're taking his money away, giving his money from him and giving it to somebody else. Well, we didn't do that with short-term rentals. So, I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud as far as a solution. Because we're overcrowded in the harbor.
So with the short-term rentals, we reduced the occupancy that they can have, like you're talking about, and we capped it in the code at 2 per bedroom plus 4, or a maximum of 24, whichever was less, right? And so those homes that had been renting out to 40 people, some of them filed lawsuits, and we had the building official determine if it was safe to up their number or not, and in some cases, they got a little bit higher than 24 because they had been doing that for so long, and the building official determined there wasn't a life safety issue in some of those. And if you're saying to reduce the number of livery vessels for a business, I mean, that's a council decision. We have existing businesses with various numbers, so if we reduced the number that a business could have, it would probably have more of an impact on the larger entities, depending on how you did it, if it was a ratio. But, I mean, that's a council policy decision.
Okay, I was just kind of thinking out loud on it, because I didn't know how we got to where we were at today as far as the whole medallion. I knew when we passed it, it was just to try to keep track of how many, or know how many boats was out there, because I went, with Casella was here, I was like, well, how many does Boogie's have? Well, I don't know, he's jockeying so many around all over the place, we can't count them. So if they don't have this medallion sticker on the side of it, then we know it hadn't been counted. And now all of a sudden it's dwarfed into this major ordeal where, you know, we're selling it and putting people out of business and over all this over a sticker. That's all, Mayor. Thank you.
Appreciate you. Councilwoman Trammell.
I was just going to make part the recommended motion. I move to approve the ordinance 25-05-CC on first reading, and with the understanding that the city staff will address any business adversely affected on an individual basis.
I'll second that.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Anything further?
I have a question for you. Does that include Jim's two requested changes, or with the 60 days and what was the other one, Jim? 60, oh, and the 2-year.
Transferability.
Yeah. Or?
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
I will include that.
All right.
And I'm good with
that. All right. Councilman Guile. So it's 180 days to 60, and then a 2-year transferable limit, or a minimal 2-year to transfer.
Be tied to that registration number.
Mm-hmm.
They can't just turn around and sell the boat.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, Councilman Guile.
All right. I need some clarification, because one thing Councilman Braden brought up, I think kind of makes a lot of sense too. Right now, we're attaching a license to a vessel, and you're saying, or the ability, the medallion to a vessel, and you're saying that that's sellable. And there's no other item in the city of Destin that works that way. If somebody sells a short-term rental, the license isn't attached to the building. The new applicant has to apply for a new license. So the vessel doesn't have the power, the owner has the power. I'm trying to understand how somebody can sell a medallion with a vessel. That should be at the discretion of the city. We're the ones that issue the medallion. I don't see how it should be in the hands or give that individual the ability, sort of like what Councilman Bagby said, the ability to price gouge and create a monopoly. So if you go out and you buy 20 medallions, you just hold on to them so that you can price gouge the next business whenever you're trying to disperse them. I don't know why those medallions would be assigned to a vessel, or why you should be able to transfer them that way. And I do agree, just like if I sold my roofing company, my engineering firm, my license would attach to that firm for X amount of days. 2 years, no way. I think that's extremely long. But 120 days, that those licenses can transfer to the business when it's sold, so that applicant can go through the proper procedures to apply for the medallion. That makes sense to me, because I mean that's how typically it works in every other industry standard. But one, we've already heard that the medallions were the way it was initially set up, or under Mr. Stevens' recollection, was so that people couldn't just hoard medallions. But in my opinion, we're creating a situation where people are going to be taken advantage of, all in the sense of trying to preserve one or two people's interest. I mean, we weren't in the middle of those negotiations. We had nothing to do with how much he spent for those. If somebody overpaid for a medallion, that's on them. It has nothing to do with the city of Destin. We weren't involved in it. We didn't have any legal liability in it. And if you did it, that's on you. That's just poor business, in my opinion. But I don't see personally how you can attach a medallion to a business. I think that individual should be allowed 120 days to reapply, and if they don't meet the criterion or they're not within whatever limitations we set forth, they don't get the medallion. But that's my personal take on it.
Councilman Destin.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, and I understand your point on the roofing company or the short-term, but the difference is that we don't have a moratorium on roofing companies or short-term rentals or restaurants for that matter, and that's the key. We've said you can't buy a license unless you are pre-existing for pontoon rental businesses. That doesn't apply to the other businesses. You're free to go down and buy a license because we don't have a moratorium on those types of businesses. I'm a little confused about where we're going. We'll have to go back to first reading if we are going to make substantial changes, correct, Kim?
Correct.
Usually, and that appears to be where we're going. Usually we'd be more specific, hopefully, you know.
I am following the motion. I understand what the council wants to do. I probably could ask a couple more questions of you all to make sure that it's a couple of other things that are coming up from this discussion are clear, if you don't mind.
And that would be fine, but I think the fact is, as we go forward with motions to change the first reading, then they're specific. And to that end, I would make a substitute to, first of all, and I'll wait. I think Jim's worry about the 60-day versus 180 probably is a worry that's not necessary. We have code enforcement who, if people are operating their pontoon business without paying their registration, they can get a $500 a day fine eventually. And so I don't see that as a big issue. I do understand that when you go to 60 days, sometimes getting through the bureaucracy takes a substantial amount of time. I don't want to put it on the staff that they have to handle it within a very rapid sequence, or the guy is going to run through his 60 days. So I'm not in favor of 180 is pretty substantial. As we look through our ordinances for grandfather and other instances where we've put time limits in, they're always 180 days, 6 months. If you stop your grandfathered activity, whatever it may be, for 180 days, throughout our codes, it says you've lost your grandfather status. So that's a pretty standard number of days that we use. So I'm not sure that problem is worth micromanaging, but I would like to make a substitute motion that, first of all, directs us to grandfather in the gentleman who bought his medallions. After all, we were letting them sell them at the time. And I feel certain that that is what Ms. Trammell had in mind, but without specificity through motions, I'm worried something may get lost. Kim, you said you wanted to ask some questions. If we can come up with these solutions, then I won't bother with a substitute. And let's do it all at one time, because unless we have specifics about what we're changing, then we've got a problem going forward.
I mean, I'm clear. Councilmember Trammell wants to ask something.
I just wanted to say, if the motion stands as it is, then all of the specificity can come in a following motion, right after we say, we're going to accept this, and then all the specificity can come next in the second motion.
What I was going to do when I said deal with adversely affected situations afterwards was what we've done before. Review with the individual or the entity that has the issue, and if there is one, which it sounds like in this case there may be, then bring back a proposed agreement to the council that lays out exactly what we're doing. In this case, grandfathering X number of vessels. That's fine. We've done that in the past, and that's what I would do again. So you wouldn't need a separate motion right now unless you wanted to.
You'd be coming back at the next meeting with this change, or would we be trying to go forward to adopt what we have tonight without any changes.
For the ordinance, it will come back for first reading with those changes.
Very good.
For the individual that spoke, that would be an agreement that would come back separately from the ordinance. It could be at the same meeting, but two separate items.
Okay, so you will bring back the ordinance for first reading?
Correct.
And I don't have any problem then with the motion she made.
Okay.
Councilman Destin, can I ask you a question? Because I don't know, and I want to be sure that I understand. You might be able to convince me right there with you. I just want to ask. So you mentioned that one of the reasons you're doing this is because moratorium. Now, I don't know because I'm not in this business, but I just heard that there's only a limited number of liquor licenses allowed in the state as well, right? So if somebody got, so there are numerous, there's no.
There are several types of liquor license. There is no moratorium on certain types. There is a moratorium on one type, but you can buy a liquor license if you sell food, and there's no moratorium on that. The only moratorium is based on population, and that's for a liquor store license. So you can still buy a liquor license as long as you serve food, and there's no moratorium on that at all.
I appreciate that clarification. That helps me out a lot.
All right. Before we continue discussions, Kim, I was gonna jump in there and do that. So if you want clarification from us before we keep going down this hole.
Since it's coming back for first reading, I'll just bring it back as I'm hearing it. Okay. It's not exactly the recommended motion. It is just bring back the ordinance with the changes for another first reading, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. With that, Councilman Bagby.
Yeah, on the 60 days, Kim, if my due date is 1 March and for whatever reason I don't want to pay it, or I'm thinking about selling it or whatever, I don't pay, I still have a license. It's not revoked not under the motion that Sandy made, but under the way this is originally written, it wouldn't be revoked for 180 days. Is that correct?
Your past due.
Under the original written, what was before us, is 180 days. So is code writing tickets or warnings on vessels that have non-revoked licenses?
We don't have any revoked yet.
Well, I'm just
right
asking.
They would be if there was, because this isn't in effect yet, there's been nobody revoked. There's been some that have given up their license, but in order for code compliance to get them, so to speak, they'd have to be operating without a license, and they aren't. So they wouldn't be.
Okay, but what if they were in arrears? They hadn't met the 180 days. They were operating in the height of spring break or the summer, and they just had forgotten to pay their $1,700.
They would be code enforced. They would get a notice of violation from code compliance.
Okay. All right. Then the second question I have is distribution of revoked licenses, because again, my concern is the concern I've always had is we created an artificial market like tulips in Holland, where when you have a moratorium, all of a sudden they become valuable. And so what happens if and when we revoke a license? Do we do a lottery, or do we do first come, first serve, or are we maintaining a running list where people pay to get on? Or you probably don't know because we haven't gotten there, but that's going to be one of the questions I have when you bring this back is, what's our process? Because we need, we're saying here, we're going to revoke licenses. You don't pay, you sell it and you don't transfer it, and you don't within 10 days or whatever notify us. Boom. What do we do with those?
So that was actually, when I said I had questions, that's where I was going, but it depends if we have a moratorium or not. If we have the moratorium in place like we do now, then when it's revoked, it just would go away. The 490 would be decreasing over time. If the moratorium went away, and council decided at some point to take that away and just have this 490 cap, then we would probably want to put in the code at that time a process where you can apply for one of the 490 and you would get it maybe on a first come, first serve basis if you met the code requirements. But since we have the moratorium, I think right now it's a non-issue.
Councilman Braden?
Thank you. This will be my second and final comment.
Second bite.
Nope, not going to be my third or fourth or fifth.
Second bite of the apple.
My second and last.
Yeah. Per Robert's rules.
My first question is why is the city allowing any individual to continue to pay, register a vessel, number, medallion, whatever, without the proper parking, bathrooms, and all that, year after year?
They shouldn't be.
Well, the man just said that he's spending $1,700 a year to just renew them, to keep them active, but there's no parking, no bathrooms, nothing else attached with them. There's no boats or anything.
I see. Well, he's not operating though without the bathrooms and the parking. He's just
Why are we allowing that?
Yeah, I know. That's what we're addressing. That's what we're addressing tonight. This is the reason we're addressing this tonight, because these things are happening.
Okay. And I would be 100% in favor of dropping the moratorium and capping it at 490. So we don't have this whole, $10,000 per medallion or whatever. If you lose it, you lose it. It's done. So I'm done. Thank you.
Appreciate the comment. All right. I got my motion and second. The board is cleared. I'll call the vote. Yeah, we'll call the vote, and it's going to come back for first reading.
Yeah. That's it.
Yep. All right. Ayes have it. 5-1. So moved.
So if anyone was confused by that, we will be starting over with first reading at the next meeting.
All right. Appreciate that. All right. 5B, Ms. Kopp.
Thank you, Mayor. This is ordinance 2511CC, an ordinance of the City of Destin, Florida, relating to noise regulations, amending Chapter 14, offenses and miscellaneous provisions, Article 2, noise of the City Code of Ordinances, amending definitions, amending provisions related to measurement or assessment of noise, providing for permissible noise levels, providing for exemptions, providing for findings of fact, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. This is first reading.
Seeing that this is a public hearing at this time, if anyone from the public would wish to speak on this topic, please do so now. All right. Seeing none, I'll close the public comments for 2511CC. And Councilman Braden, take it away.
Yeah, I'll make that motion. I'll move the City Council approve ordinance 25-11-CC on first reading.
I'll second it.
All right. I got a motion and a second. Any further discussions? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All right, congratulations. 6-0, so moved. All right, Ms. Kopp. Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor. This is ordinance number 2025-08LC, an ordinance of the City of Destin, Florida, relating to the imposition of mobility fees, providing for adoption of a mobility fee study and table of mobility fees, providing for mobility fee discounts, providing for city enforcement, providing for authority, providing for findings of fact, providing for incorporation into the Land Development Code, providing for conflicting provisions, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. This is second reading. There have been no changes since first reading.
Thank you for that. All right, seeing this is a public hearing and a second reading for 25-08-LC, is anyone here from the public wish to speak on this? All right, seeing none, I'll close the public comments and I will entertain a motion.
I'll make it, Mayor. I move the City Council adopt ordinance 25-08-LC on second reading as presented, with the discounts applied to long-term single-family uses and a full rate per the mobility fee study to all other uses.
All right.
I'll second it.
Motion, and I have a second from Councilwoman Hebert. Seeing any discussions? Seeing none, we'll call the vote. Oh, okay. I was looking for some eye contacts. I thought you were losing it on us. I'm glad you're with us still.
I had attended a planning and zoning meeting in Walton County, which enlightened me to a fact that I was not aware of, which possibly may be true. I alerted Ms. Kopp to it, and she was kind enough to look at the issue for me. What happened was, there was a big project going through that was quite dense, and the Planning and Zoning Commission in Walton County was finding problems with transportation concurrency. They did not want to approve the project because they felt it did not meet transportation concurrency. The attorney representing the project quoted to the Planning Commission that since Walton County had just adopted mobility fees, state law specifically prohibited them from denying the approval of a project due to traffic concurrency. It makes sense. The law says that since you're already charging fees for mobility, you can't deny a project for mobility issues. Now, the problem with that is, and I'm not sure it's so clear after reading through the legislation and the analysis that Ms. Kopp found for me, and I'm not so sure it's that clear, but it does seem to be very strongly hinted that if you got mobility fees, you can't stop a project for transportation concurrency. That's one of the best tools we have in our toolbox. And if we look forward to projects coming down the pike, that may take away our ability to modify or say no because we haven't enacted a mobility fee. And for that reason, I'm still, as you may guess, very uncomfortable with the direction we're going without some clarification on that issue. Because, I mean, Stallman Avenue, that's transportation mobility. Another intersection down the road where there is a need or a desire by a landowner to put a whole lot of apartments and complex high density in place, another issue. So if we're going to take away one of our tools, the most effective tool we have about transportation in exchange for mobility fees, I noticed the intersection at Stallman is not on the list. And many of these intersections and road segments are going to be affected by traffic concurrency for these particular projects. They're not addressed. I know we can change it later after the fact, but it gives me great issues. On top of the fact that as I look through the list of what we're going to charge people, there seems to be some bias that should not, in my opinion, be there. A single family home that is 4,000 square feet has a fee that's equivalent to high-density multifamily townhouses, apartments, condos. The single family, which is, in my opinion, has much less impact on a traffic concurrency, is being charged the same as these high-density projects. So in my opinion, we've got a lot of problems there, and I just want all of you to think about what we're doing before we jump into it and take our ability to say no or to modify any future projects because we've implemented mobility fees. And on that motion, I would table this until we can get clarification in a month.
All right. Not hearing a second.
It doesn't look that way.
All right, so the motion dies for a second, and I have the motion and second. Any further other discussions? All right, seeing none, we'll call the vote. Oh. Yeah, the table motion died.
Now we're voting on the original.
As written, I believe.
Second reading.
The second.
Second reading. All right, ayes have it, 5-1, so moved.
Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
Could we ask Ms. Kopp to have that information that he'd requested by second reading?
This was
Second reading.
Oh, sorry about that.
All right.
I would be happy to talk to the council members about mobility fees anytime. So we can have those phone calls about legalities and what we can and can't do if you'd like.
Awesome. All right.
And Steve, or somebody, maybe Kim, if you could provide us with the number of projects that we've killed due to traffic compatibility in the last 20 years? Because I couldn't think of one. That's why
Usually with impact fees, they make the road improvements, and with mobility fees, they pay. So where I was getting at was it's not, the end result isn't that different.
Yeah, we've asked them to do turn lanes and things like that. The other issue that I saw was 98's been an F or a D the entire time I've lived here. So, and that's only been since 99, so it's not like that's going to change.
Okay.
All right. So with that, Councilman Braden, any?
Well, the only comment I would make that the fact that we didn't do our job is no
that's true.
rationale to take our ability to do our job away.
Fair enough. Councilman Braden, any thoughts, comments, concerns?
The only thing I have tonight, Mayor, is just want to say thank you to Michael Burgess and his team for staying on top of our medians that the state, the taxpayers have paid millions of dollars to redo, and keep those things looking good. Just about every time I drive down 98, I look at them, and they're looking good.
He's out there with a magnifying glass. I saw him.
Oh, yeah, I get warm and fuzzy. See, he called me today and let me know that they was taking care of a couple issues, and I appreciate that, because we spent a lot of money on those, the taxpayers did, and that's our front door. Everybody travels through it, and that's what everybody sees, and I think it should stay that way. Thank you.
Good deal. Thank you. Councilmember Trammell.
I have two things tonight. First one was thank you to the organizers of the employee appreciation activities. I thought that was a lot of fun, and I think it's very valuable for us to honor our employees. Next year, I hope to see more council members out there. I will admit I was in the last half, so you all may have been in the first half, and I didn't see you because I would recommend that you don't schedule it on the same day as the barbecue at the sewer plant. But anyway, that way staff can attend both of them. Second thing I have is the Parks Foundation met this past week, and we have received a donation from Trees on the Coast, and we're very thankful. Just to catch you up, we're getting our website and our logo and all of that kind of stuff. So those of you that would like to donate, hold on, we'll be there soon. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Councilman Destin.
Thank you, Mayor. At the last meeting, I asked that we put this beach vending enforcement item on the agenda. It appears that we still have people vending on the beach every day, all day, and we don't seem to have the ability to enforce our own rules and regulations. How many code violations have we given out in the last 10 days, City Manager? And are they warnings or the kind where you have to pay?
I'll ask Steve or Dave if they have that information. I didn't come prepared to.
Yes, I have that. So we've had two $500 citations issued in May. So May 9th and May 14th.
Okay.
Steve, those were paid, right?
They have not been paid yet.
Okay. The April ones were paid?
No, so the information that we got back from the county is the one that was issued in March was supposed to be a warning, and so that was the $500 citation was reduced down to the warning, and the one issued in April has not been paid yet either. So the three $500 citations that have been issued this season so far have not been paid.
Same vendor? Is it the same?
No, they're, sorry, the first one, the first two, yes, were the same individual. The third one is a different individual.
Okay. Well, that would kind of reinforce the point I'm trying to make. We are spinning our wheels. We're not getting anywhere with that, so I would make a motion to authorize the city attorney to file for an injunction in the circuit court and see if we can't get their attention like that. And I would suggest that we file it against the most prolific violator.
Second.
All right. Motion and a second. Councilman Destin and Councilman Bagby, the second. Any further discussions? Want to bring it back?
I would have a bring back an estimated expense at the next meeting.
It's going to be hard to estimate not knowing how many defendants. Are you saying only, I think there are two, there's one or two that are still violating. The warnings have caused everyone to stop vending on the beach with the exception of one or two companies which are still vending and getting cited. So you said the
right.
worst one essentially. If there are two,
Well, then I would change the motion to address both.
Okay. Okay. So.
And as far as the estimate, I understand that part, and I'll have a discussion with you between now and the next meeting to come up with an amount that you recommend we transfer over to legal. And then I'll talk to Crystal about where we might find that.
I mean, I think prior to going to trial, there is discovery that includes depositions and
Absolutely.
record reviews, and that's where a lot of the expense comes in.
Yep.
And that could, I'm not saying it will go this high, because it might not, but depending on how many defendants and how much time ends up putting in, it could be upwards of 30,000 just for that,
Yep.
and would increase if it went to trial.
And of course, they pay that also when you start deposing them if they have legal counsel. So that's a process we need to go down so that we can get their attention, it appears to me.
All right, Councilman Bagby, you okay with the updated motion?
Yeah, the only thing I would add is we have an HR attorney, we have a land use attorney, we have, do we have somebody that we on retainer or that we feel comfortable with that can expedite this once we figure out where the money's coming from?
You have me, and we also have Kyle. We do not have a plaintiff's attorney on staff because the city doesn't usually sue people. But we do, apparently, if they're going to start ignoring our codes. So the last time we sued someone was for a code compliance matter was 222 Cybert, which I handled for the city and is still going.
Yeah, I just see this as being more and more, and my personal preference, this isn't part of the motion, is that we not bog down the city attorney with taking all these depositions on, the 4 or 8 or 20 cases
Well,
that
we
we're
could have
gonna-
Kyle's firm do it. He's our special
Yeah,
projects.
I would ask you to see that if he's available.
Yeah, and he's the one that gave me the estimate, so I did.
All right, we got some nodded heads. Seeing nothing on the board, I'll call the motion, call the question. Yep. All right, ayes have it, 6-0, so moved.
On a related issue, on this issue, we need to contact DEP. After all, they say they own all the submerged land lease from the median high tide down, and see if they would like for us to take actions to enforce their administrative ownership interest, and that may simplify the whole thing. So city manager, I'd add to the motion, or I guess you don't really have to have one, contact DEP and see if they have an opinion about this. I know reviewing those old documents they seem to have a pretty strong opinion about it. Let's see if they don't want to enlist us as their enforcement agent. Might be a simpler way around.
Glad to.
One other quick item, I've received calls from churches who are receiving code violations over banners that advertise temporary functions like Vacation Bible School and things like that. I seem to remember when we wrote that ordinance many, many moons ago, things that were directional or informational in nature weren't necessarily covered. If that's not the case, I think we need to amend the ordinance where we don't give fines to churches who are advertising Vacation Bible School. So let's figure out how to do that.
On feather flags?
Yeah.
Can I have an arrow on a feather flag?
Well, for churches, on the day of church service or the
They can put it out.
week, they can put it out.
Yeah.
But, you can't put it out on Tuesday for your Sunday church service on
Right.
the beach.
Yeah.
That, I don't think that's your intent.
No, the intent is just not to, the intent is to rewrite if necessary to where we're not giving fines to churches that are doing special events And I suppose we do have something in there that day of, but that needs to be modified to some other standard where they can advertise Vacation Bible School or the other things they do in the summer. And I'm sure Ms. Kopp and the city manager can come up with some way to tweak that ordinance, and let's make a change.
All right.
Be glad to.
Great.
Thank you.
All right, Councilman Bagby.
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Councilman Abear.
Couple things. First of all, I want to thank Steve and his team for going over to the parking lot across from McGuire's last weekend whenever everybody was having dinner Sunday night, and there was probably 20 cars from Louisiana and Georgia in the lot. I'd be curious how much we made on that night finding those individuals that did not register. They just parked and got out of their car and went across to McGuire's. Thank you for having those guys do that. That's easy money. People could, register and pay that, and they're not. So I appreciate you keeping those guys on it, especially in the evening hours. That 5 o'clock to 8 o'clock, that lot gets full. So thank you for helping keep the monies coming in, because that's administrative money we can use back in the parking. The other thing, I already asked the city manager about this tonight. I don't know if you were able to find out what the large machine is sitting on Main Street Park, grass. Lisa and her team have done a phenomenal job of that Main Street Park, and I don't know what that equipment is, but it's been there for over the weekend, and it was still there today. So I don't know if we can move it to the paved parking spots at Main Street Park or get it removed off of there completely. I don't know whose item it is, but I've had about 10 people ask me, why is this all over our dog grass? So if you could check on
I've got enough
that.
to address that first thing in the morning.
Please do, thank you. And then I too want to thank the city for putting together the employee appreciation lunch. Tamara did a great job of getting the word out there, what they were going to be doing. I was so excited I was going to be able to go to the Destin Water Users Celebration and my Friday schedule went sideways, and I hated that I didn't get to make either, but I think it was fantastic that the team had the afternoon off, some food and fun, and the city got to really appreciate all the hardworking folks that we have. So thank you for everything y'all do. Thank you for helping them get it out there, and thanks, Tamara. Appreciate it.
All right, Councilman Roofer, go ahead.
Oh, I got just a couple things. First thing I'd like to ask is the same thing I've asked a few times. Just because the public needs an update. Harbor dredging, where are we at on that?
We have received 2 quotes back to draft the RFP documents with the appropriate language to make sure we're covered with what we need to get done, how we're going to monitor it going forward. We're awaiting a third one. Actually, the first one we got we thought was somewhat out of line. The second one was about half of the first one. So we anticipate having the third one in by the end of this week or the first part of next week. And hopefully we'll have a recommendation for you at the next council meeting, which will still give us plenty of time because we really don't want to engage the process until after turtle nesting and shorebird season next year. So we'll have some ample time to get it put together and get it on the street.
Yes, sir. Thank you for that. My next question is a little bit off the cuff. It's just something that, and I apologize, I didn't prep you guys for this, but it's something Councilman Braden brought up. It's just had me thinking here for the past 15, 20 minutes. How often do we review the DOs on the harbor? Because something he just brought up kind of rang a little bell in my head. If this guy has 17 medallions, who's saying he's not operating 17 vessels? He already said he doesn't have the parking, he doesn't have the bathrooms. How often are we reviewing these DOs to see if people are still compliant?
Go ahead.
So the DOs themselves aren't necessarily reviewed. What's reviewed is their livery application, okay? And so what we have done is we did an initial inspection, and then after that first year, and then after that following year, we did the affidavit of no change, okay? And we have gone out and done random spot checks, and we're gonna be kicking that off again here soon to make sure that everyone is in compliance with parking, bathrooms, and ensuring that the registration sticker, not the medallion, the registration sticker is on the vessels themselves with names and all that sort of stuff. So that's how we're ensuring it. As far as this particular situation, the 17 registrations that are held by Mr. Hires don't have a vessel tied to them. So they're just 17 registrations that he has. Because he doesn't have a vessel to tie them to.
I see what you're saying, but I guess the question that rings in my mind is he doesn't have 17 vessels that he notified you about, right? It doesn't mean that he doesn't have those attached to a vessel that he didn't register because he doesn't have the parking. Like, just think of the motive of, I don't have the parking, I don't have the bathrooms, I have the medallions. What stops me from throwing those medallions on vessels and not registering with you just because, or telling you I haven't, just because I don't want to be evaluated or fined?
Yeah,
right? So that's my concern.
Yeah, in that case, that's a rogue operator, and as we all know, rogue operators are very difficult to catch. Okay, so if he were to, in this situation, if someone were to do this and utilize those 17 registrations that are held, but not attach them to any vessel, and it's just a vessel coming in and coming out, it's going to be difficult because the name isn't going to be on the vessel, the company name isn't going to be on the vessel, the registration isn't going to be on the vessel, and it's just going to be pretty much the Florida registration. And at that point, we'd have to catch them in the act of doing this, which is very difficult.
Does the medallion itself have the Florida vessel registration?
No, the registration, which is, everyone calls them medallions, the city registration sticker is just a sticker with the City of Destin logo, and it's got the registration number on it. And that goes near your Florida registration number on the, I can't remember which side.
So you can compare those two numbers and see if they match.
If we're going to investigate or do spot checks, yes, we're going to make sure that this registration that we have, the medallion, is tied to this vessel state registration, okay? If it's not, they do have chase vehicles, and so that city registration would have to tie to the same Florida state registration as one of their chase vehicles. If that's not the case, then either A, it's an illegal vessel, or B, they just didn't update their records with us, and so we'd have to work through that.
And I appreciate that. And I'm not claiming that individual was doing it, but if there is there are people out there that would do something like that.
Yes.
So I just appreciate you clarifying how you guys follow that procedure. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, I do have one request, and I'm so glad that it was timely with the Coast Guard agencies being here. I've had multiple, and I think we just had another one this past weekend about the East Pass channel markers. And so I wanted to get your guys' blessing on directing staff or the city attorney to send a repair letter or request for repair letter to the U.S. Coast Guard and possibly Congressman Petronis's office and anyone else that you guys may feel is a adequate avenue. I remember taking photos when it was slightly still hanging on many years ago, and it still hasn't been done. And actually talking to, I'm going to get his title wrong. Do you know what title?
Senior Chief.
Senior Chiefs. I don't want to call him something. Senior Chief, he was like, and actually with their maps and everything, evidently it's in the wrong position as far as where the channel is. So he was like, yeah, not only does it need repair, it needs relocation, which they would do as well. So just wanted to see, one, if you guys were apt to giving us / the city manager a blessing to send that letter for a request for repair.
Yeah.
All right, got a motion and a second.
I would also suggest that you.
I got you.
I would also suggest that you send it to the county, who I think are the official government, local entity
Okay.
that manages the inlet. So send them to.
Awesome, thank you for that. And then that was a Councilman Destin, Bagby second. Yep.
Perfect. And we'll vote on it.
All right, and I will call the vote, and they're gonna have to put a custom one up there. Coast Guard
And the county?
and Congressman Petronis.
And Petronis.
Oh, and Petronis, that's who I missed.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. And then we have it up there.
So
Come on, slow down, guys. Give me just a second.
Let them think. Let them think. All right. Thank you for that. Ayes have it. So moved 6-0. Okay. And that's all I had. And we're back over to Ms. Kim Kopp.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have one item, and it involves calling for an executive session pursuant to Section 286.0118 Florida statutes. I desire the advice of the City Council in the case of Carissa Harbarger, Rainbow Frost Ice Cream, Ronald Ellison, William Ellison versus the City of Destin et al., case number 325CV00550. And as such, I'm calling for an executive session to be held in the City Council chambers at the Destin City Hall Annex, 4100 Indian Bayou Trail, Destin, Florida, 32541, on Monday, June 16th, 2025 at 5:30 p.m. Central, or as soon thereafter as the issue may be heard. Present at the executive session would be a court reporter, the mayor, all city council members, the city manager, myself, and Mr. William Warner, our insurance defense counsel.
And yep, that was my question.
I'm just looking for a consensus as to that date. I've already cleared it with the clerk. You don't.
So we can make it, yeah? Yes?
You're good with June
I'm good.
16th at 5:30? Okay.
Yes.
Then it shall be advertised.
All right. Thank you for that. Public comments. Yes, sir. Will.
Will Ellison, 744 Kelly Street, Destin, Florida. Couple things. One, if we could go back to the monetary citations written to these beach vendors. Through the whole spring break, we're going to say that there's only been 3 written. Was there anything written today? I called in twice, at 11 and 4 o'clock. I thought this was supposed to be high priority. I'm not getting any kind of compliance here. I thought we were working to shut this down, and it feels apparent, like it's just blatantly they're out there every day. Every day. I can walk on the beach and find them in 5 minutes. All right, we got a code compliance beach officer. He's cool. Riley, I appreciate him, but we're sending him to the harbor in the morning and then to the beach in the afternoon. That doesn't make sense to me. We'd send them to the harbor at night when they can count all the vessels, and then to the beach in the morning when everybody's out there acting a fool. Second thing, I lost my train of thought. I'll be honest, I lost my train of thought. I got a little worked up on that. What else were we talking about? Them just operating illegally, warnings. They got a $500 ticket wiped away because of warnings. We have one company out there that's gotten warnings, 4 warnings. I thought the whole, y'all's directive was if their name was the same, their company is the same, warnings carry over year from year. We have one company that's working off 4 warnings. So I want to know, are we actually going to put these people in compliance? I mean, I know that Mr. Destin brought it up, but today, they take money from us every day. Today, they're out there. I called it in. It's not getting handled. I just want to know what we can do to remedy the situation. I know a lot of people don't think a lot of it, but it's taking money out of my kid's mouth, so it's kind of a big deal. So any questions? I can answer any questions. I got pictures. There it is. The new help desk, the new city help desk. Does it work? I can't get anything to process through there. I tried to submit 3 complaints over the last 2 days. Can't get anything. It just sends me to the old help desk ticket, and I check my email and nothing goes through, and I'm forced to call. And I hate to be that guy, but when I call, there's no documentation. And with our track record, documentation is key. So if we have is there a way to check code compliance cases? Do we know that yet? Like, if I can get on the new help desk right now and go see if there's any tickets written for today, since I called twice, is there a way to look that up? Because the old way there was, but I'm not sure as of right now. Any answers?
Let you finish your comments.
No, I'll finish on that.
There is a way to check, and Steve, can you please tell them how to check?
Yeah, code compliance stuff is still processed through Compass. There will be a transition period when we move over to MGO, that there may be some days where it's not, but we are currently doing all code stuff through Compass currently, and Compass can be checked for violations. I will just say this as of last week, okay? Everyone knows about the staffing issues in code. The training, like our code officers have to go to training to keep up with professional development and all that. Before the season started, before I got over at code, 2 officers, specifically Riley, were scheduled for training all last week. We were down. We only had 1 officer pretty much any time at any moment last week. So
Steve, are
yes.
you available if they need to talk to you about how to look up a case on Compass?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
All right, appreciate you, Will.
Just to make sure and city manager, we're still making this a priority, right? Even with the limited workforce that we have?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and of course, our lack of ability to do anything that seems to affect it is the object of having Ms. Kopp do what she's hopefully going to do. So we're going to work on it.
All right.
Carrie Harbarger, 307 Mountain Drive. I'm so sorry for the drama, guys. It's a lot, but I want to talk about a couple things, and I understand that it's a limited response. We are in a lawsuit, and I respect that. But I do want to say a couple things. First of all, what this business does, and they have created a lot of problems for our community. They really have. And what they do is they stage at June Decker Park, they stage at the Shira accesses, and they stage at the Crab Trap 7 days a week. They have a very good system going. The tickets for so many carts being on the beach, it is hard to believe there's only been 2 warnings made. It almost seems vicious, but I don't want to say that because we are shorthanded. And here's another thing. I talked to Mr. Steve, and there is no doubt in my mind he's trying to do the right thing. We just don't have the tools. So I'm going to lay back with silly comments like that, and I'm going to give Steve the ability when he gets his tools to do the right thing, and which I'm hoping is way sooner than later. Okay, so I wanted to say that I believe in Steve. Okay, I'm going to get a shirt that says I believe in Steve. Okay. So then I also want to say, now that I have let you guys know, that I will work with you on where they stage. I see them every day, 7 days a week. It's like my job. Okay, and then also, sadly, what I did notice was that there are businesses in Crystal Beach. It hurts other businesses. All of us pay to play, and it hurts other businesses. And I think the fact that they all dress in a uniform to mimic the beach vendors that are at Crystal Beach gave the appearance that they were part of the city or part of the Crystal Beach or a part of the scenery. So one of the main things that I want to address is the DEP. Okay, I have spoke with the DEP, and I want to bring up the document that I had given copies to the council a while back. Years ago, we addressed this issue, and it was very clear that the city of, okay, let me give an example. There's an easement in front of my property. The city owns the easement in front of my property. The ordinance plainly states, I'm responsible for that easement. I maintain it for the city. The state mandates the same thing from the city. The city gave us title and showed us title to the land, but they also had us staple our beach management guidelines to that and made that one document. That's why you saw that document signed twice. Because it went to DEP, was signed off on them, and then it went back to the council, and they adopted that, and they were asked by the DEP to address their codes, and that's the DEP wants the city of Destin to man the fort. They want you to man our shores. That's your responsibility, just like my responsibility is to man my easement in front of my property. So that's the response we're going to get from the DEP, and if we need anything, I have contacts if we need. And if there's any questions, you can ask me.
Thank you so much.
Anything, anybody? No? Okay. And one more thing, the sooner the better. Our season is starting, and if we're going to recover at all, it has to happen immediately. Somebody has to, I know how to get a hold of them. I see them every day, 7 days a week. I look right at them. I know their names. I know their addresses.
Appreciate you, Carrie.
Yes.
Anyone else? All right, seeing none, I will close City Council meeting.